The most terrifying sound in the known universe is not, as many might believe, the roar of a plasma cannon or the shriek of a quantum torpedo. No. The most terrifying sound is a human saying, "Let's talk. Trust me on this." I learned it the hard way. My name is Korex Vantarin, High Commander of the 7th Fleet of the Xandrian Dominion. My people have conquered 17 star systems, subjugated 32 sentient species, and never, not once in our 800-cycle history, retreated from a battlefield until we met the humans. Sir, perimeter established. All escape vectors locked down, reported Commander Plix, her exoskeleton clicking nervously as she approached my command station. The human settlement is completely surrounded. I nodded with satisfaction, my primary eye ridge lifting to study the holographic display. The human colony on Epsilon Draxus was small, only about 10,000 of their kind, but humans had a reputation. When the Council decided to make an example of this unauthorized settlement, they sent me with 30,000 troops. Overkill. Perhaps. But when dealing with humans, our intelligence suggested caution. "Excellent work, Commander," I said, my mandibles flexing in what my species considers a smile. "Commence the intimidation protocol." "Yes, sir," Plix responded, turning to the communications array. Deploying sound cannons and psionic disruptors now. The atmosphere around the human settlement rippled as our technology went to work. The sound cannons produced frequencies just at the edge of human hearing, not painful enough to be considered a weapon under Galactic Accord regulations, but uncomfortable enough to weaken resolve. The psionic disruptors scrambled thought patterns, making organized resistance difficult. Standard procedure for encouraging swift surrender. "Any response?" I asked, pouring myself a cup of fermented root juice, a luxury I allowed myself before every victory. Plix checked her instruments. "Nothing yet, sir. But their neural patterns show increased activity. They know we are here." "Of course they know we are here," snorted Lieutenant Drax from his security station. "We have 30,000 troops surrounding their pitiful settlement. We have got hover tanks on their perimeter and destroyers in low orbit. You'd have to be blind, deaf, and extremely stupid not to notice." I shot him a disapproving glance. Drax was young, impulsive, and had never encountered humans before. None of us had, not directly. But I'd studied the reports from other commanders who had. Those reports were concerning. "Never underestimate them, Lieutenant," I said sharply. "The Council didn't send 30,000 troops to handle 10,000 settlers because they are worried about our vacation time." Drax lowered his head in acknowledgement, though his secondary appendages twitched with barely contained excitement. Fresh from the academy, he was eager for his first taste of combat. "Poor fool!" Sir, Plix interrupted, her voice unnaturally high. "We are receiving a transmission from the human settlement." "Already?" I raised all three of my eyebrows in surprise. That was fast. Usually takes at least a full cycle of intimidation before most species crack. "Should I put it through?" asked Plix. I straightened my ceremonial armor and adjusted my rank insignia. First impressions matter, especially when accepting surrenders. "On the main screen, Commander." The holographic display flickered, and a human face appeared. Female, I believed, though with humans it can be hard to tell sometimes. She had dark skin, curly hair cut close to the scalp, and eyes that showed no trace of fear. Unusual. Unusual. "This is Jessica Monroe, elected representative of the Epsilon Draxus human settlement," she said calmly. "To whom am I speaking?" I cleared my throat and adopted my most imposing posture. "I am High Commander Korex Vantarin of the 7th Fleet, Xandrian Dominion. By order of the Galactic Council, your unauthorized settlement has been deemed in violation of sector regulations. You are hereby ordered to surrender immediately and prepare for relocation." The human Monroe blinked slowly. Then, to my astonishment, she smiled. Not a nervous smile. Not a pleading smile. The kind of smile a predator gives when it spots prey. "High Commander Vantarin," she said, her voice pleasant but firm. "I appreciate your direct approach. However, there seems to be a misunderstanding. Our settlement was established under Article 7 of the Frontier Worlds Treaty, which permits habitation of Class C planets by non-Council species with proper documentation. I flicked my secondary appendage, signaling Plix to mute the transmission temporarily. Is this true? Did intelligence miss something? Plix frantically searched through her datapad. I don't know, sir. The orders from the Council were explicit: remove the human settlement. There was no mention of any treaty rights. I grunted in frustration and unmuted the transmission. Your claim will be investigated. Representative Monroe. However, my orders stand. Surrender now and your people will be treated according to Galactic Accord regulations for displaced populations. Monroe's smile didn't waver. I understand you have your orders, Commander. But before we proceed with anything drastic, I'd like to propose something. I waited, mandibles twitching with impatience. Let's talk, she said simply. A chill ran down all 8 segments of my spine. Let's talk. The 3 most dangerous words in the human vocabulary. Sir? Plix whispered, noticing my sudden tension. I muted the transmission again. Bring the fleet to full combat readiness, I ordered, my voice lower than usual. Drax looked at me in confusion. Sir? They are proposing dialogue. Isn't that a sign they are considering surrender? No, Lieutenant, I snapped. It's a trap. When humans say, let's talk, they don't mean surrender. They mean they are about to do something unpredictable. But, sir, Plix interjected, our intelligence indicates humans are a diplomatic species. Perhaps they genuinely wish to negotiate? I slammed my command staff against the floor, causing both officers to flinch. Have either of you ever actually read the classified reports on human diplomatic encounters? The Krell incident? The Volgorian massacre? The utter destruction of the Taurian battle fleet? They stared at me blankly. I thought not, I muttered. The Krell thought they were entering peace talks. Their entire governing council was found 3 cycles later floating in space, with their internal organs removed with surgical precision. The Volgorians accepted a human diplomatic envoy. 2 planetary rotations later, their central command exploded from within. No survivors. No explanation. The Taurians' proudest warriors in the quadrant surrounded a human transport ship. The humans asked to talk. The Taurians agreed. Nobody knows exactly what the humans said. But the Taurian fleet turned their weapons on themselves. 300 ships, gone in minutes. Those are just stories, Drax said uncertainly. Propaganda, surely. Are you willing to bet 30,000 lives on that, Lieutenant? I asked coldly. Before he could answer, the sensors began blaring. Sir, shouted the sensor officer from across the command center. We are detecting unusual energy readings from the human settlement. What kind of readings? I demanded. Unknown, sir. Nothing in our database matches the signature. Perfect. Just perfect. Exotic weapons were exactly what I didn't need today. In defensive positions. Shields at maximum. I barked. Sir, Plix said hesitantly. The human is still waiting for your response. I took a deep breath and unmuted the transmission. Representative Monroe, the Xandrian Dominion does not negotiate with illegal settlers. You have 1 planetary rotation to surrender, or we will take action. Monroe's expression didn't change, but her eyes, those unnerving human eyes, seemed to look right through me. I understand, Commander, but I really think we should talk first. Face to face. Just you and me. One leader to another. There it was again. Talk. Face to face. Alone. The human might as well have threatened to eat my offspring in front of me. That won't be necessary, I replied, trying to keep my voice steady. 1 rotation. Then we attack. I cut the transmission before she could respond. Sir, Drax ventured. With all due respect, she didn't seem very threatening. I turned to the young lieutenant, noticing for the first time how his carapace hadn't even fully hardened yet. So young. So naive. Lieutenant, do you know why the Council fears humans more than any other species? It's not their technology. It's not their physical strength. It's their minds, their unpredictability, their ability to turn a conversation into a weapon. A conversation, sir? Yes, Lieutenant. Humans don't fight like normal species. They don't follow the rules of engagement. They talk. They negotiate. They find weaknesses not in your defenses, but in your thinking. And once they are in your head, you have already lost. Drax still looked skeptical, but wisely kept further comments to himself. I turned to Plix. What about those energy readings? She studied her console. Still present, sir, but stable. No indication of weapons charging. It's strange. Almost like they are scanning us, or preparing something we have never seen before, I muttered. We keep monitoring. I want to know if anything changes, no matter how small. Yes, sir. I settled back in my command chair, antennae twitching nervously. This was supposed to be a simple operation. Surround the settlement. Display overwhelming force. Accept surrender, relocate the humans. Quick, clean, by the book. Now I had a settlement of humans who wanted to talk, unusual energy readings, and a growing sense of dread in my thorax. Sir? It was the communications officer. We are receiving another transmission from the settlement. I suppressed a groan. On screen. This time it wasn't Monroe. Instead, a male human appeared. Older, with gray hair and wrinkles around his eyes. He wore no uniform, no insignia of rank. High Commander Vantarin, he said, his voice surprisingly gentle. My name is Dr. Thomas Hammond. I'm the Chief Medical Officer for our settlement. A medical officer? Why would they put a doctor on the line? I understand your position, Commander, Hammond continued. You have your orders. We have our home. Neither of us wants bloodshed. Then surrender, I replied flatly. Hammond smiled sadly. I have spent 40 years studying xenobiology, Commander. I have treated Xandrians before. Fascinating physiology. Your exoskeleton's cellular regeneration capabilities are quite remarkable. I stiffened. Why was he talking about our biology? Your species has a unique vulnerability, though, Hammond continued casually. Your neural ganglia, located at the base of your secondary appendages, extremely sensitive to certain frequencies. In the right hands, that knowledge could be, well, let's just say it would be unfortunate. The command center went deathly silent. Every Xandrian present instinctively touched their secondary appendages, where our most vital neural clusters were indeed located. This was classified information. How did a human doctor know about it? Are you threatening us, Doctor? I asked, my voice dangerously low. Threatening? No, Hammond chuckled. Just making conversation. Sharing professional observations. After all, in my line of work, understanding anatomy is crucial. Speaking of which, how are your egg clutches doing this season? Commander? I understand the breeding grounds on your homeworld have been struggling with that bacterial infection. Terrible business. My blood ran cold. The breeding ground infection was top-secret information, known only to high-ranking military and government officials. If the humans knew about that, what do you want? I demanded. The same thing Representative Monroe suggested, Hammond replied. A conversation. Face to face. No weapons, no tricks, it's just words. And if I refuse? Hammond sighed, looking genuinely disappointed. Then I suppose you will follow your orders, and we will follow our protocols. Neither outcome is ideal for either of us, I think. Before I could respond, he cut the transmission. Sir. Plix's voice was barely above a whisper. How did they know about the breeding grounds? I don't know, I admitted. Intelligence breach, perhaps, or bluffing. That was no bluff, growled our security chief, who had been silent until now. They have information they shouldn't have, and those energy readings, they could be preparing something based on our biological vulnerabilities. Lieutenant Drax, previously so eager for action, now looked pale under his exoskeleton. Could they really target our neural ganglia from a distance? Theoretically, Plix began, then stopped herself. It would require extremely precise frequency modulation and detailed knowledge of our biology, but yes, it's possible. The command center erupted in nervous chatter. I slammed my staff down again for silence. We are the 7th Fleet of the Xandrian Dominion, I reminded them. We do not cower before primitives in a makeshift settlement. Whatever they are planning, we have them outnumbered and outgunned. But even as I spoke, doubt gnawed at me. What if the humans did have a way to target our neural ganglia? What if they had other biological weapons designed specifically for Xandrian physiology? And how had they obtained such classified information? Sir, Plix said quietly, there's something else you should know. I have been analyzing their settlement patterns and, well, it doesn't make strategic sense. Explain. She pulled up a holographic map. Their habitation units are arranged in concentric circles with large, empty spaces between rings. The placement of their power generators is inefficient. Their water reclamation systems are exposed. It's almost as if... As if what, Commander? As if they wanted to be surrounded, she finished. As if this entire settlement was designed to draw in a military force exactly like ours. A trap. Of course it was a trap. But what kind, sir? The sensor officer's voice cracked with alarm. The energy readings are changing. They are forming a pattern around our entire perimeter. Show me, I ordered. The tactical display shifted to show energy signatures pulsing from beneath the human settlement, spreading outward in ripples that matched our troop formations perfectly. How are they doing that? Drax whispered. How do they know exactly where our troops are positioned? A cold realization struck me. They have been planning this from the beginning. The settlement, its location, everything, it was bait. And we took it. Sir, Plix said urgently. We are receiving yet another transmission from the settlement. Let me guess, I said grimly. They want to talk. No, sir. It's just coordinates. And a time. 6 hours from now. A meeting place, I murmured. They still want their face-to-face conversation. You are not actually considering going, are you, sir? Drax asked incredulously. Was I? The logical part of my brain screamed no. Meeting alone with humans was suicide according to every classified report I'd ever read. But refusing meant potentially facing whatever weapon they had aimed at my troops' neural ganglia. We need more information, I decided. Plix, I want everything we have on this Jessica Monroe and Thomas Hammond. Where they came from, their backgrounds, anything that might tell us what they are planning. Yes, sir. And Lieutenant Drax? Sir? Prepare a stealth scout team. I want eyes on that meeting location. Right away, sir. As my officers hurried to carry out their tasks, I stared at the holographic display of the human settlement. Such a small collection of structures to cause so much trouble. What were they hiding? What did they want? And most importantly, why were they so confident facing a force that outnumbered them 3-1? 4 hours later, I had my answers. Or at least, some of them. Jessica Monroe, Plix reported, age 42. Former diplomat for the Human Alliance during the Proxima Centauri negotiations. Specialized in conflict resolution and cross-species communication. Known for resolving the Arcturus mining dispute without a single casualty. And Hammond? I asked. Dr. Thomas Hammond, age 68. One of humanity's leading xenobiologists. Spent 15 years on Zelturian Prime studying comparative physiology. Published several papers on evolutionary adaptations in exoskeletal species, including, no doubt, detailed analysis of Xandrian neural ganglia. The scout team reports the meeting coordinates are in a small clearing, 2 kilometers from the settlement perimeter, Drax added. No obvious signs of ambush, but the area is surrounded by dense vegetation that could conceal weapons or personnel. I processed this information, mandibles clicking in thought. And the energy readings? Still present, sir, said the sensor officer. They seem to be waiting, like a system on standby. Waiting. Just like the humans. Sir, Plix said hesitantly, I have been thinking about those human diplomatic incidents you mentioned earlier. The Krell, the Volgorians, the Taurians. What about them? Well, sir, I took the liberty of checking our historical database. Those incidents, they are not quite as described in the classified reports. I stared at her. Explain. The Krell Council members weren't found with organs removed. They died of a virus, one that originated on their own world. The humans had actually warned them about the outbreak. The Volgorian command center explosion was traced to a reactor malfunction, not human sabotage. And the Taurian fleet. She hesitated. Go on, I prompted. The Taurian fleet wasn't destroyed, sir. They defected. After talking with the humans, they simply changed sides. A heavy silence fell over the command center. Are you suggesting, I said slowly, that our own intelligence reports have been falsified? Not falsified, sir. Exaggerated. Interpreted through fear rather than fact. I leaned back in my command chair, mind racing. Could it be true? Had the fearsome reputation of human diplomacy been built on misunderstandings and paranoia? Or was this exactly what the humans wanted us to think? The question remains, I said finally. What do these humans want? If they have a weapon capable of targeting our neural ganglia, why haven't they used it? Why ask for a meeting at all? No one had an answer. 2 hours until the meeting time, sir, Drax reminded me. What are your orders? I stood up, my decision made. Prepare my personal transport. I'm going to the meeting. Gasps and protests erupted around me. Sir, with all due respect, that's insane, Drax exclaimed. The High Commander cannot risk himself in such a manner, Plix agreed. Protocol expressly forbids. Protocol, I interrupted, doesn't account for whatever is happening here. If the humans wanted to attack, they would have done so already. They have something else in mind, and I intend to find out what it is. At least take a security detail, Drax pleaded. I shook my head. They asked for a face-to-face meeting, one leader to another. If I show up with guards, it could provoke the very reaction we are trying to avoid. And if it's a trap, Plix asked quietly. Then you will have my permission to reduce their settlement to ash, I replied grimly. But I don't think it is. At least not the kind of trap we are expecting. As I left the command center, I heard Drax mutter to Plix, he's going to get himself killed. Well, perhaps. But something told me that whatever the humans wanted, it wasn't my death. They had gone to too much trouble, revealed too much of what they knew. They wanted something else, and in 2 hours I would find out what. The transport touched down at the edge of the clearing exactly on time. I stepped out alone, dressed in formal diplomatic armor rather than battle gear, a gesture I hoped the humans would appreciate. The clearing was small, ringed by tall, purple-leafed vegetation native to Epsilon Draxus. In the center stood a simple table with 2 chairs. Waiting for me was Jessica Monroe. She wore what I assumed was formal human attire, a simple blue outfit with minimal ornamentation. No visible weapons. No communications devices. Just as alone as I was. High Commander Vantarin, she greeted me, extending her hand in what I recognized as a human greeting gesture. Thank you for coming. I approached cautiously, ignoring her outstretched hand. Representative Monroe, I believe you wanted to talk. She smiled, lowering her hand without offense. Yes, please sit. I remained standing. Before we begin, I want to know what those energy signatures around my troops are. Some kind of weapon? Monroe looked genuinely puzzled. Energy signatures? I'm not sure what you mean. Either she was an excellent liar, or she truly didn't know. Neither possibility was comforting. Let's not play games, I said. Your settlement is surrounded by my fleet. You should be terrified, yet you ask for this meeting. Why? Monroe gestured to the chair again. Please, Commander, sit. This will be easier if we are both comfortable. Reluctantly, I lowered myself into the chair, which creaked slightly under my weight but held firm. Thank you, she said, taking her own seat. Now, to answer your question, I asked for this meeting because there's been a misunderstanding, one that could cost lives unnecessarily, yours and ours. The misunderstanding being your orders to remove our settlement are based on incorrect information. We are here legally under Article 7 of the Frontier Worlds Treaty, so you claimed. Yet the Galactic Council says otherwise. Monroe nodded. And therein lies the problem. The Council was deliberately misinformed about our status here. By whom? By the same people who have been feeding your military false information about humans for years, she replied calmly. By those who benefit from keeping our species in conflict. I narrowed my primary eyes. That's a serious accusation. It is, and I can prove it. She reached slowly into a pocket. I tensed and withdrew a small data crystal. This contains evidence of systematic disinformation about human diplomatic encounters, including the incidents you are no doubt familiar with. The Krell, the Volgorians, the Taurians. I stared at the crystal but made no move to take it. You expect me to trust data provided by you? No, Monroe smiled. I expect you to verify it independently. Which is why the crystal also contains access codes to your own military's sealed archives. The real records, not the sanitized versions you have been shown.
My antennae twitched in shock. Access codes to sealed military archives? If she truly had those. How did you obtain such information? I demanded. The same way we knew about your neural ganglia and the breeding ground infection, she replied. We have allies within your own government, Commander. People who believe this cycle of mistrust has gone on long enough. Traitors. Or perhaps truth-tellers. I honestly didn't know anymore. What do you want from me? I asked finally. 24 hours, Monroe said. Give me 24 hours to present my evidence. Verify it however you need to. If after that time you still believe we are here illegally and still wish to remove us, we won't resist.
It was too simple, too easy, and the energy signatures my sensors detected. For the first time, Monroe looked genuinely confused. Commander, I assure you we have no weapons deployed against your forces. Whatever your sensors are detecting, it isn't coming from us. A cold feeling settled in my thorax. If the energy signatures weren't coming from the human settlement. I need to contact my ship, I said urgently. Monroe nodded and gestured to the clearing around us. Feel free. This meeting is completely private. I activated my personal communicator. Command Center, this is Vantarin. I need an immediate update on those energy signatures. Static answered me. Command Center, respond. I tried again. More static. Monroe frowned. Is something wrong with your communicator? It appears so, I said, my suspicion growing. Very convenient. I assure you we are not jamming your communications, she said, looking genuinely concerned. That would defeat the purpose of this meeting. And what purpose is that exactly? She met my gaze directly. To prevent a massacre. To show you that humans aren't the monsters you have been led to believe we are. And to warn you that you may be in grave danger, not from us, but from someone else. The clearing suddenly seemed very exposed, very vulnerable. If my communications were being jammed, and the humans weren't responsible. Who, I demanded, who would benefit from provoking conflict between our species? That, said Monroe grimly, is what I was hoping to discuss with you. And then the sky exploded. The sky ripped apart with a thunderous boom. A ball of orange flame blossomed above us, followed by the unmistakable shriek of falling debris. I instinctively threw myself over the table, knocking Monroe to the ground as a chunk of burning metal crashed into the clearing less than 20 meters away. What the Monroe gasped, but I was already pulling her toward the tree line. That was one of my patrol ships, I growled, my military training kicking in. Shot down. Are you certain your people aren't responsible? Absolutely certain, she replied, her face grim. My people don't have orbital weaponry, and we gain nothing by attacking during peace talks. More explosions lit up the sky. Through gaps in the foliage, I could see multiple fireballs. My fleet was under attack. We need to get back to my transport, I said urgently. Monroe grabbed my arm, surprisingly strong for her size. Not that way. Your transport is too exposed. Follow me. Under normal circumstances, I would never follow an enemy into unknown territory. But these were not normal circumstances, and my instincts told me that whatever was happening, this human was not behind it. We ran through the dense vegetation, Monroe taking point with surprising agility. Above us, the sounds of battle intensified, energy weapons, explosions, the scream of damaged engines. Someone was attacking my fleet, and attacking hard. There, Monroe pointed to a small structure partially concealed by the purple foliage. Emergency bunker. We will be safe there. The bunker door hissed open at her approach. Inside was sparse but functional communications equipment, emergency supplies, and thankfully a tactical display. Can you contact your people? I asked, mandibles clicking anxiously. Monroe went straight to the communications panel. I will try. Our systems use different frequencies than yours, might get through whatever's jamming you. While she worked the communications, I studied the tactical display. It showed orbit above Epsilon Draxus, and what I saw made my blood freeze. My fleet, my proud, mighty fleet, was under attack from all sides by ships I didn't recognize. They weren't human vessels, their energy signatures were all wrong. They were something else entirely. Who are they? I demanded. What species attacks a Xandrian fleet with such audacity? Got through, Monroe announced, ignoring my question. Dr. Hammond, status report. The display flickered, and Hammond's face appeared. He looked harried, with a small cut above one eye. Jessica thanked the stars. The settlement's under attack. Not just the Xandrian fleet, they are hitting us too. Precision strikes on our defense grid. Casualties? Monroe asked sharply. Minimal so far. We activated the shelters in time. But our perimeter defenses are down. And our guests? Hammond's expression darkened. They are gone, disappeared the moment the attack began. Monroe swore under her breath, then looked at me. Commander, I believe we have both been played. Explain, I demanded. Now. She gestured to the tactical display. Those ships attacking your fleet? They are Vorlex mercenaries. I heard guns for anyone with enough credits. I stared at her. The Vorlex were notorious throughout the galaxy as species of ruthless warriors who had turned their entire civilization toward profitable warfare after their homeworld was destroyed. They sold their services to the highest bidder and were known for their advanced cloaking technology and brutal efficiency. And you know this how? I asked suspiciously. Because they visited our settlement 3 cycles ago, posing as traders, she replied. But we recognized their energy signatures. We have encountered them before, on other worlds. You still haven't answered my question. Who hired them? And why attack now, during our meeting? Monroe's eyes met mine. Think about it, Commander. Who benefits if humans and Xandrians destroy each other? Who has been feeding your military false information about human diplomatic encounters? Who sent you here with orders based on incorrect information about our legal status? A cold realization dawned on me. The Galactic Council. Not the entire council, Monroe corrected. A faction within it. The same faction that's been blocking human applications for full council membership for decades. The tactical display beeped urgently. More explosions in orbit. My fleet was fighting back now, but they had been caught by surprise, and the Vorlex ships were using advanced cloaking technology that made them difficult targets. I need to get back to my command ship, I said firmly. If it's still there, Monroe pointed out. The Vorlex hit your communication arrays first. Classic tactic: isolate the commander from his troops. I activated my personal communicator again, desperately trying different frequencies. Nothing but static. There has to be a way to contact them, I growled in frustration. Monroe hesitated, then made a decision. We have a quantum entanglement communicator. Untraceable, unjammable. We have been saving it for emergencies. My antennae twitched in surprise. Quantum entanglement technology was rare and incredibly valuable. The fact that the humans had it and were willing to let me use it. Where is it? I asked. In main settlement. 2 kilometers from here. We'd have to make a run for it through a potential combat zone. I checked my sidearm standard-issue plasma pistol, fully charged. Not much against Vorlex battle armor, but better than nothing. Then we run, I decided. Hammond's face on the display looked alarmed. Jessica, the settlement's perimeter is crawling with hostiles. You will never make it. We have to try, she insisted. If the Vorlex succeed in wiping out the Xandrian fleet, they will come for us next. Our only chance is to warn the commander's forces about the cloaking technology. Hammond nodded reluctantly. I will guide you through the safest route. Be careful. The display changed to a map of the area between the bunker and the settlement. Hammond's voice continued over the comm. The red dots are Vorlex life signs we have detected. They are setting up positions around our perimeter, but there's a gap in their southern approach. That's our way in, Monroe said, studying the map. If we stay low and move fast, we might make it. I found myself in the bizarre position of putting my life in the hands of a human I'd come to remove forcibly from this planet just hours earlier. But right now, she was my only ally against an enemy that had blindsided us both. Lead the way, I told her. Monroe checked her own weapon, a sleek, compact energy pistol I didn't recognize, and nodded. Stay close. And try to keep up, Commander. I have led 17 ground campaigns, I replied dryly. I think I can manage a 2-kilometer sprint. She flashed a quick grin. We will see. The moment we stepped outside the bunker, the chaos became apparent. Smoke billowed from multiple locations within the human settlement. Flashes of weapons fire lit up the twilight sky. In the distance, the thunder of explosions as the battle continued in orbit. Monroe moved with surprising speed and stealth, keeping to cover, pausing to listen at intervals. I followed her lead, impressed despite myself. She moved like a trained soldier, not a diplomat. You have military experience, I observed quietly as we crouched behind a fallen tree. 4 years with the Human Defense Force, she replied, before I became a diplomat. Figured understanding both sides of conflict might help prevent it. And yet here we are, I noted. Here we are, she agreed grimly, though not quite the conflict either of us expected. We continued in silence for several minutes, making good progress toward the settlement. Then Monroe froze, raising a closed fist, a universal military signal to halt. Ahead, through the undergrowth, I spotted the distinctive shimmer of Vorlex battle armor, 2 soldiers heavily armed, sweeping the area methodically. They are between us and the settlement, Monroe whispered. We will have to go around. I studied their movement pattern. That will add half a kilometer to our route. Time we don't have. What do you suggest? We can't take on 2 Vorlex with hand weapons. I grinned, mandibles spreading wide. Can't we? What? Without waiting for her response, I removed a small device from my armor, a standard-issue sonic disruptor, tuned specifically to Vorlex physiology. One of the advantages of being part of a military that prepared for conflict with every known species. Cover your ears, I warned Monroe. I activated the disruptor and tossed it into the clearing. The device emitted no sound audible to humans or Xandrians, but the effect on the Vorlex was immediate. They dropped their weapons, clutching at their helmets, their normally coordinated movements becoming spastic and uncontrolled. Now, I hissed, drawing my plasma pistol. We burst from cover, firing simultaneously. My shot caught the first Vorlex in the joint of his armor where the neck piece met the shoulder guard, a known weak point. Monroe's weapon fired some kind of electrical charge that overloaded the second Vorlex's armor systems. Both went down without firing a shot in return. Impressive, Monroe acknowledged as we retrieved the sonic disruptor. Standard equipment for Xandrian commanders? Only the paranoid ones, I replied. Good thing you are paranoid then? We continued toward the settlement, encountering 2 more Vorlex patrols that we managed to avoid rather than engage. As we drew closer, the damage became more apparent. Several buildings were burning, defensive turrets lay in smoking ruins, and the distinctive crater patterns of orbital bombardment scarred the landscape. They hit your defense grid first, I noted. Professional. Thorough. Just like they hit your communication arrays? Monroe replied. They have done this before. Finally, we reached the settlement perimeter. Hammond was waiting for us, along with several armed humans who eyed me warily but followed Monroe's lead in accepting my presence. The Quantum Communicator? Monroe asked immediately. This way, Hammond led us through the settlement to a reinforced building at its center. Inside, past several security checkpoints, was a small room containing a single device, a sleek black cube with no visible controls. That's it? I asked skeptically. Hammond nodded. Latest model. Pairs with this. He handed me what looked like a simple earpiece. It will connect directly to your command staff through their neural implants. I hesitated. Allowing an unknown device direct access to Xandrian neural pathways was a significant security risk. But without communications, my fleet was fighting blind against an enemy with superior tactical positioning. How do I know this isn't part of an elaborate trap? I asked bluntly. Monroe met my gaze steadily. You don't. Just like I don't know that you won't order your troops to wipe us out the moment you regain contact with them. We are both taking a risk here, Commander. She was right. Trust was a luxury neither of us could afford, yet paradoxically the only resource we had. I took the earpiece and attached it to my auditory receptor. Immediately, a faint hum indicated an active connection. Command Center, this is High Commander Vantarin. Respond. For a heartbeat, nothing. Then, Commander. By the ancestors, we thought you were dead. It was Plix's voice, strained but unmistakable. Status report, I demanded. Under heavy attack from unknown forces. Cloaking technology making targeting difficult. We have lost 7 destroyers and multiple support craft. The rest of the fleet is holding formation, but our defenses are weakening. The attackers are Vorlex Mercenaries, I informed her. Adjust sensors to frequency band Delta 79. It will penetrate their cloaking. A pause, then confirmed. Getting clear readings now. Multiple hostile vessels detected. Order all ships to target the largest Vorlex vessel, their command ship. Coordinates should be appearing on your tactical display now. I glanced at Monroe, who was inputting data into the Quantum Communicator. Coordinates received. Targeting now. Lieutenant Drax, I continued. Deploy shock troops to my location. The human settlement is also under attack. We are forming a temporary alliance against the Vorlex. Sir? Drax sounded confused. Alliance with the humans? That's an order, Lieutenant. And Plix, once you have dealt with the Vorlex command ship, I want you to access military archive code Omega-37. Priority override Vantarin Alpha. Sir, that's a sealed archive. It would require Council authorization to override code Xandrian Prime 642. I interrupted. Execute immediately. Another pause. Longer this time. Override accepted, sir. Accessing archives now. I turned to Monroe and Hammond. My troops will be here shortly. We need to establish a defensive perimeter. Monroe nodded and began issuing orders to her people. Within minutes, the settlement was transforming into a fortified position, with humans and Xandrians working side by side against a common enemy. Commander, Plix's voice came through the earpiece again. We have disabled the Vorlex command ship. Their fleet is in disarray. And sir, about those archives, what did you find? I asked, though I already suspected the answer. Everything the human said is true. falsified reports about human diplomatic encounters, deliberate misinformation about the legal status of their settlements, and, sir, orders from Counselor Vozick himself to remove the human presence from Epsilon Draxis at all costs. Counselor Vozick, head of the Military Oversight Committee. The same counselor who had personally briefed me on this mission. Capture as many Vorlex as possible, I ordered. I want to know who hired them, and send me all the archive data. Already done, sir. You should be receiving it now. Monroe handed me a datapad where the information from my ship was being downloaded. I scanned it quickly, my anger growing with each revelation. Years of manufactured conflicts, diplomatic incidents staged to appear as human aggression, systematic campaign to keep our species at odds. Why? I asked aloud. Why go to such lengths? Because humans are unpredictable, Hammond suggested. We don't fit neatly into the Galactic Council's carefully ordered society. We innovate too quickly, adapt too readily, and some find that threatening. More than threatening, Monroe added. Existential. Counselor Vozick belongs to a species that values order and hierarchy above all else. Humans represent chaos to him. Uncontrollable chaos. The datapad beeped with a new transmission. I opened it to find a recorded message from a captured Vorlex captain confirming our suspicions. They had been hired by Vozick's agents to attack both the Xandrian fleet and the human settlements simultaneously, making each side believe the other had betrayed them. The perfect crime, I muttered. We destroy each other, the Vorlex disappear, and Vozick reports another tragic example of human aggression and duplicity to the Council. Except for one thing, Monroe said. What's that? She smiled grimly. We talked, face to face. As leaders, the one thing Vozick feared most. Outside, the sounds of battle were diminishing as my troops secured the area and the remaining Vorlex forces retreated. The immediate danger was passing, but the implications of what we'd discovered were just beginning to unfold. Commander Plix's voice came through again. The Vorlex fleet is in full retreat. We have captured their command ship and 3 support vessels. Minimal casualties on our side thanks to your warning about their cloaking technology. Orders? I looked at Monroe, who had just saved my life and possibly prevented an interspecies war. Stand down from combat status, establish defensive positions around the human settlement, and prepare a secure channel to the Galactic Council, all members except Vozick. Sir? One more. We have evidence of Council corruption and attempted genocide to present, I explained. Both our species have been manipulated long enough. Understood, sir. As the connection closed, Monroe extended her hand to me once more. This time I took it, feeling the strange warmth of human skin against my exoskeleton. So, she said, what happens now, Commander Vantarin? What indeed? In less than 1 planetary rotation, everything I thought I knew about humans, about my orders, about the very council I served, had been upended. I had come to remove these humans by force, only to find myself fighting alongside them against a common enemy. Now, I said slowly, we talk. For real this time. Monroe smiled. I'd like that. 3 cycles later, I stood before the full Galactic Council, my formal testimony concluding. Counselor Vozick was conspicuously absent, having been detained pending investigation into multiple charges of corruption, conspiracy, and attempted genocide. This council has heard your evidence, High Commander Vantarin, intoned the council chairperson, a venerable Quarian whose age was measured in centuries. The actions of Counselor Vozick and his conspirators are a stain upon our honor. However, the question remains, what is to be done about the human settlement on Epsilon Draxis? I straightened, meeting the chairperson's gaze directly. The settlement exists legally under Article 7 of the Frontier Worlds Treaty. And more importantly, the humans there saved my life and the lives of my troops. They could have let us die fighting the Vorlex, eliminating a threat to their existence. Instead, they chose alliance, cooperation, dialogue. A murmur ran through the council chamber. You recommend allowing the settlement to remain? Asked another counselor, surprised. I recommend more than that, I replied firmly. I recommend immediate initiation of full diplomatic relations with the human alliance. I recommend human representation on this very council. And I recommend a thorough review of all past incidents involving humans to separate fact from fiction. The chamber erupted in voices, some supportive, some outraged. The chairperson called for order, then regarded me thoughtfully. Your recommendations are bold, Commander. Some would say radical. Some would say necessary, came a voice from behind me. Jessica Monroe strode into the chamber, dressed in formal diplomatic attire. She had been waiting outside during my testimony, and now approached the council dais with confidence. Representative Monroe acknowledged the chairperson. This council has agreed to hear the human perspective as well. Monroe bowed respectfully. Chairperson, honored councilors. For too long, our species have been kept apart by fear and misinformation. Commander Vantarin and I have seen firsthand what we can accomplish when we work together instead of against each other. The question is not whether humans belong in galactic society, but whether galactic society is ready to accept that the old order is changing. Is that a threat, Representative? Asked one counselor coldly. Monroe smiled. Not at all. It's an invitation. To talk. To truly talk, without the barriers of prejudice and false history between us. Those words again. Let's talk. But this time, they didn't fill me with dread. This time they carried hope. The council deliberated for 3 days. In the end, they approved all of my recommendations. The human settlement on Epsilon Draxis was formally recognized. The diplomatic relations with the human alliance were established, and a process was begun to review human application for council membership. As for me, I was offered promotion to Fleet Admiral for my actions. I declined. Instead, I requested assignment as military liaison to the human settlement on Epsilon Draxis. The council, perhaps relieved I hadn't asked for something more difficult, readily agreed. So, Monroe said when I told her the news, you are staying with us. Someone needs to keep an eye on you humans, I replied dryly. Who knows what trouble you will get into next? She laughed. Probably a lot. But at least now we have someone to talk to about it. I shuddered dramatically. Please, no more talking. But I was joking, and she knew it. Because the truth that Counselor Vozick had feared so much was that when humans and Xandrians actually talked, really talked, without lies and manipulations between us, we discovered something unexpected. We liked each other. And that was the most terrifying thing of all. Not to us, but to those who profited from our conflict. 2 planetary cycles after the Battle of Epsilon Draxis, as it came to be known, I stood with Monroe on a hillside overlooking the expanded settlement. New buildings rose alongside the old, some in human architectural styles, others distinctly Xandrian. In orbit, ships from both our worlds came and went freely, carrying trade goods and cultural exchanges. You know what still bothers me? I said, watching a group of Xandrian younglings playing some human game with settlement children. What's that? And those energy signatures my sensors detected before the Vorlex attack. If they weren't your weapons and they weren't Vorlex. Monroe smiled mysteriously. Some things are better left as mysteries, Commander. You know what they were, I accused. She shrugged. Let's just say humans have friends in unexpected places. Friends who were monitoring the situation, ready to intervene if necessary. Another species? I asked, intrigued. Oh, perhaps. Or perhaps something else entirely. She changed the subject. The new diplomatic center opens tomorrow. I expect you to give a speech. I groaned. More talking. Always more talking, she agreed cheerfully. It's what we do best. And she was right. Humans talked. They negotiated. They found weaknesses not in your defenses, but in your thinking. They got inside your head. But what Vozick and others like him never understood was that once humans were in your head, they didn't destroy you. They changed you. They made you see possibilities you'd never considered. They made you question assumptions you'd never examined. They made you better? Yes, their armies surrounded us. Yes, one human said, "Let's talk." And yes, we ran not away from them, but toward them, toward a future neither of us could have imagined alone. And all it took was a conversation.